basis. So it's actually really good to see that in one person you can have a diversified portfolio and a diversified set of things you're working on.
Yeah, don't let people define you as just one thing. Yeah, the only thing you have to manage is your own focus and your own ability, your own bandwidth.
Right.
If you can handle that, then don't let the and honestly, that's kind of. It was when I was less mature a few years ago, I used to get a little bent out of shape about or frustrated about if it was somebody, one person talking to me, they might just think of me as, oh yeah, you're the guy that owns that bar in Belltown. And if I talk to somebody else, oh yeah, you're the picnic guy, you stole picnic to Google. And I'm like, no, I'm both of those things. And so and now I don't even care.
So I'd love to get really tactical on the tech side. So these guys are going to be, in the next month, are going to be working on idea validation.
Okay.
So can you kind of take us through, how do you think about, what's that process for you once you've got an idea? How do you validate that I should pursue it?
Yeah.
And how's that changed over time?
Right. I want to give a thoughtful and organized answer here, but the reality is that it's kind of situational. It does change depending on the segment, things like that. So some high-level things are always asking a question from a user perspective, not from a competitor's perspective. Does anybody do this? Does your idea require a low, medium, or high amount of change to user behavior? And I have I have a hypothesis that you've got to be really balanced there. Again, it's situational to what you're doing, but a lot of times people get really enamored with an idea, and they don't ask this question, and it sounds clever, and the idea is probably very, very smart, but it presupposes, it goes too far. It presupposes a user behavior that doesn't yet exist, or perhaps will not ever exist. And it doesn't exist probably for a reason, because it's hard. Because people, maybe they're in this particular scenario, they're lazy about that. They will never do X, right? Sometimes the idea that it doesn't require very much change to user behavior. It's very much like an existing thing. And so therefore you get a lot of competitors. So you have to be somewhere in the middle. You have to be balanced. I'm trying to think of an example. Like Uber is a great example of where I would posit that just for mutual calibration. That's an example of where it's right in the middle. Did the user behavior of people using their phones to call up cars exist? No, technically no. But what existed was people using their phones to call a cab, right? Or people getting into cabs to begin with. So that's valid, right? And so I think that they're a good example of something right in the middle.
Right.
Many
not
examples.
Requiring sort of the users to really drastically change their behavior.
Yeah, exactly. Like, do you see another way that I could put it is, and this is one of the reasons why I love GlamHive is, I'll go into it. Who use? Raise your hand if you use Instagram. Right, that's good. You know what I do on Instagram? I'm just, it's good. You got a few minutes to kill. You're looking at it. The people whom I love following the most, actually, they're people like you. They're stylish, right? And they're taking cool selfies. And then, men or women. And I'm looking at I don't care if there's anything substantive. It could just be, it's kind of eye candy. And then, like, what happens is, somebody will post like a really great outfit, and I will say, man, that dude, that's a great tie, great idea to match it with that blazer. I want to buy that. I want to know what that is. And maybe he hashtags JCrew or whatever, right? And then, but I can't. But so GlamHive, here, a great example of where you don't index too far to a user behavior that doesn't exist. They're basically taking that Instagram model where people can take selfies, post their pictures. It's a social media platform, but where, here's their secret sauce. They auto-magically pull up the actual, you can click on the item and buy it, right? Now you still have to tag, and this is where it's that right balance. The user behavior of taking a selfie, posting your outfit on online, that already exists. The user behavior that is tagging what I'm wearing, J. Crew, Ralph Lauren, Johnston and Murphy, that behavior already exists, right? They just sort of made it, they just went that other half a click, right? So that's a great example. I'm very bullish on them. That's a great example of where I think that they're going to succeed, because they're seeing something. The world is sort of, for lack of a better term, sort of pregnant with this idea. Like that's the natural next step. So that's one way that you validate an idea. Does it require low, medium, or high change in user interaction? You can also ask that same question in terms of your competitors. Is no one doing this? Are there some people doing this? Are there a lot of people doing this? Again, the right answer, in my opinion, is actually that there are some people doing it, right? If there's no one doing it, that can be okay too. But you need to look at that very carefully. Why, right? If there are some people that are, or you hear that that somebody's going to move to, you put your ear to the ground, you study the segment. That's where I think there's a sweet spot as well. So.
Great.
Yeah.
I'm glad you said that,
Yeah.
because I've been talking to these guys about competition, and I'm like, listen, competition, you can glean insights from your
absolutely.
competition.
Yeah. Oh, allow me to talk about how amazingly great it is to actually have a competitor. In fact, I think that's kind of the house that I built, or myself and my co-founders have built. Fatbits was not the first. I'm going to talk about the myth of the first mover advantage. A lot of times people confuse, like if this is the first time this idea has ever been expressed in the world, that's what's going to make me win. I don't think so. I actually think sometimes the first mover, you're better off being the second person that learns from the first person's mistakes and build a better mousetrap. I think your odds are much higher. It's not a requirement. It's not a you must do that. I would actually be delighted if every one of you, your startup idea was that it was very, very unique. But just understand that just don't be too swept up by the uniqueness of it, because the uniqueness alone isn't and a lot of people sort of first-time entrepreneurs confuse uniqueness or it's a first mover as being that's what's going to make them succeed. Oftentimes, you're better off being able to observe other examples and how to innovate and be better than they are.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're debunking some myths. One of the other myths that sort of I encounter is this idea when a lot of entrepreneurs, when you ask them, so who's your competitor?
Yeah.
They'll be like, well, or who's your market? They'll be like,
yeah.
Anybody can use this.
Right,
Everybody
right,
can
right,
use this.
Right.
How do you go about finding product market fit?
Yeah. So I've actually kind of come full circle on this. To be honest with you, I had a position on that question that existed for years, and then when I went to Google, it got turned, and then I'm in a state of revisiting my own position.
Okay.
Let's assume that you're not Google. So you don't create products where the conversation is, well, we need to make sure everyone will use it, right? Because we're going to launch it off of the homepage. The simplest answer I have, and I think it's always the original position that I have had on identifying a marketplace, is it does have to begin with a segment that you feel like that you really understand. Again, it's situational to your concept. But let's say that you have a concept, and I think your chances of succeeding are much higher if you have an innate understanding of the persona or the personas that you're pursuing. I'm myself a bit of a contradiction, because my understanding is that PicMonkey has always resonated. 80% of the audience are women between the ages of 25 and 50. And I'm not a woman between the age of 25 or 50. I'm a bit of a contradiction there, but what I will say, maybe I'll turn it into a non-contradiction, is I understand the pain associated with, I need to do some photo editing. I want to get some really amazing results, but I don't have $700 to pay for Photoshop, nor do I have the time to learn how to use it, or the 45 minutes it takes to just, color balance it, one photo. So I understand what that feels like, and if you can have a very, very personal understanding of the user pain, the user problem that you're trying to solve, that's a big win. So I know that's a kind of a weird way of how do you identify it. You must first understand, can you understand this segment very well enough to be able to make something that truly delights them and wins them over.